We'll talk more about that right now with Lord McKinley. Craig McKinley is a former Conservative MP, now Conservative peer, and joins us to discuss Brexit and indeed various other topics as well. A very good afternoon to you, Craig.
Good to see you, Julia.
Always
very
good to be joined. Thank you so much.
Actually, I must say on a very sad day because it's the day that we finally confirm that we pretty much lost the battle for Brexit. So this is a very serious day.
Oh, you are very pessimistic on that. For me, I just think this is a massive own goal by Keir Starmer because he and all his mates, all his Europhile mates, they're absolutely convinced that anybody voted for Brexit. We're all a bit bored with the Brexit battles. We're all conned by what was written on the side of a big red bus. We don't know what we're doing. A, we won't see it. We won't really notice it. They can slide us back in. And B, they'll get away with it. I think he's completely wrong. I think he's completely misread the nation. There's no trust in Keir Starmer. No one believes him. Everyone knows that he's not a Democrat. He tried to overturn Brexit 2016 to 2019. He couldn't do it. Couldn't do it openly. Now he's trying it by stealth. I don't think he's going to get away with it.
Well, he's now got the levers of power in his hand. Obviously, as Prime Minister, he tried 48 times while he was opposition European spokesman, and he was opposing Brexit all the way through those Brexit war days. So I'm not at all surprised. I mean, we're here on the night before. It all went to the wire, like it always does. There was, midnight talks and all the rest of it. I can tell you what was happening in those talks. They were trying to get Keir away from their side of the table because he was giving away just about everything they wanted.
Well, the fishing, they were going to do a 1 year rollover, then it became 4, and then somehow miraculously it became 12. But part of that is if you do negotiation and before you finish the negotiation you set a date for the EU summit announcing the results of it, and it's going to be in London, and you're going to look like, frankly, a big tit if you haven't got anything to announce. That was what was going to happen. I'm referring to the bird, of course. Then they got you over a barrel, and he and the country were, let's be honest, shafted.
Well, I think Tom has got this absolutely right. This is little by little we'll accept the SPS rules, the same rules on agriculture, and then little by little there'll be another friction created by the EU because they can. They don't need to, but they can. And this type of government that they know is just a complete walkover will say, well, we better comply with another load of EU rules. Now, my red line on all these things is who adjudicates when there's a row. Now, under the TCA, there was a new adjudication body of which we had a judge effectively, and they had a judge, and there was a fair and even-handed adjudication. Now, what we've got back to with this new grand reset is the ECJ back
European Court of
many
Justice,
areas.
yeah.
And if you are controlled by a foreign court, call me old-fashioned, but it means you have lost your sovereignty. Yeah. It's pretty simple. And why on earth we always have to have our fishing fleet has to bear the brunt of all this?
Well, let's talk about this. We spoke to a staunch Remainer. I'd say Ramona. I don't mean it's an insult. It's just people who would fight against the actual result of the referendum in 2016. Say, look, fishing is this tiny part of our economy. It's not the future of our economy. Why is everyone getting such a tiz about it? What would you say to that?
Well, I would say this was an inheritance this country had, a unique inheritance. Certainly in my old patch of Ramsgate, it was a very proud industry that could be an awful lot bigger, that could be creating a lot of new jobs. But it always seems to be the thing that is given up because France asks for it. Yeah. I know it's only £1 billion a year, but I tell you what, you keep adding $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and it becomes a decent increase in our economy. Yeah. So it's not just fishing. It's not just complying with the new rules on agriculture. There is a rather dubious bill going through Parliament at the moment, very quietly. It's the Product Regulation and Metrology Bill, which will give ministers under Henry VIII powers the right to align all other products and how they're made and the safety of them exactly and completely with EU rules. So we don't need to have a new 1972 European Communities Act. This government have given itself the tools to actually ape the EU through the back door.
And that's the thing. And it's, as I said, it's what they always wanted to do. We've had some extraordinary criticism of Nigel Farage and Richard Tice. I mean, being very clear that this is a surrender. Richard Tice says it's a huge betrayal. He's Deputy Leader of Reform. It's surrender on steroids, re-entering the EU in all but name by the back door. Kemi Badenoch, has said we are being dragged back quietly, shamefully and deliberately. Starmer has reopened the old wounds of Brexit, not to heal them, but to surrender ground we'd already won. She says we will reverse it. Some rather colourful language from Boris Johnson, the man who actually got Brexit done. It wasn't perfect. No one thought it would be. Let's face it, it was always going to be pretty tough after the outrageous negotiations on behalf of Theresa May and that betrayal there. By the way, Ollie Robbins, the man who did her negotiations, also the guy doing Keir Starmer's negotiations now, which tells you quite a lot. Boris Johnson, though, called Keir Starmer the orange ball chewing manacled gimp of Brussels, accused him of an appalling sellout which sacrificed UK fishing interests, and compared the deal with the surrenderism in the pact with Mauritius to hand over sovereignty of the Chagos Islands and pay for the privilege of doing so. I mean, he's not wrong, is he?
No, he's completely right. He's completely right. Now, I'd hoped that I'd spent my quarter of a century getting Britain out of the European Union. I thought it was a job done, no matter how imperfectly, no matter how annoyed I was about how Northern Ireland had been left, and all of those things. I could sort of live with that. Yeah, job sort of done. So I'd moved on to fighting against the ridiculousness of net zero. And I'm looking forward to that battle over the years to come. But it looks like we're going to have to refight the battle for Brexit.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, because we're constantly told the Brexiteers, the ones who haven't moved on. No, we thought the job was done in 2016, then we had to fight for it again all the way through to the end of 2019, and then the deal. It's the Remainer, well, the Remainers. Nothing wrong with voting Remain, perfectly reasonable thing to do. Lots of people did democratic vote, but, no issue with that. But people who tried to stop it from happening and tried to undermine it and roll it back, they're different. They're different people. They're not Democrats. And Keir Starmer is the Remainer in chief. They're the ones who were.
What I can't understand, Julia, is you would have thought any political party gets a bit of advice from someone. I mean, this party, this Labour Party, is, unbelievable. It's every way it turns is wrong. I mean, if you've got any ounce of sense, you do not annoy millions of older people, pensioners in this country. They've managed to do that with the winter fuel allowance cut. You do not annoy the backbone of this country, i.e. farmers, and they've done that. They're now going to annoy, and not just annoy, they're going to completely frustrate those 17.4 million people who voted for Brexit because they wanted independence and sovereignty back. Their Newcastles, their red wall that actually voted very solidly for Brexit, they're already losing those votes heavily and hemorrhaging them. Who is advising the Labour Party? Because I think, if there's one good upside to this, I think the job was done before yesterday. But what this means is Keir Starmer has absolutely no chance of forming a government in 2020.
I have to say, I think he's going to rue this day. You mentioned net zero, but just briefly, very briefly, if you would, and you're part of, basically, let's look at the facts on this and fighting this insane policy that's going to completely ruin our economy even more than it's already ruined by net zero. This part of this EU deal is tying us into the EU carbon emissions sort of quotas and deals and scheme, and there will be a penalty for us if we dropped our net zero policies as a result of that. I mean, I use the word insane a lot about this field of our topic, but it really is the correct word, isn't it? That's insane.
Well, it is. Joining the Europeans' energy or the emissions trading system will add £112 a year to household energy bills. Already we're faced with the highest energy bills domestically of just about anywhere in the world. Do you know, there might be just one little good thing about this, and I never like to completely abrogate our own democracy and sovereignty. It might mean that Mad Miliband might be sidelined because we'll have a rather loopy Brussels telling us what to do instead. There's one little bit of brightness. It can't be more.
You
mad
say that. Everyone again. I agree with you on Miliband. Everyone blames Miliband. It was Keir Starmer's policy, and he's the one who appointed him. He takes ultimate responsibility. I must ask you also, and again, you among the many things you've been right on, by the way, you're a member of the COVID recovery group, trying to get sanity back, getting us out of lockdowns, getting things moving there. And again, a large part of our economic mess now is because of those policies that were put in place. The World Health Organization has agreed basically this deal where basically, they're going to be in charge of advising everyone on their pandemic policy in the future. They're going to sort of take that control. There's not going to be a vote in Parliament. This is the organisation which was completely wrong about everything to do with COVID, completely beholden to China, didn't think it came from a Wuhan lab, poo-pooed anyone with any advice on it, disinformation, blatant lies about vaccines, about masks, about lockdown and the right. But this government is signing up to this body, unelected, unaccountable body, to be in control of future pandemic policy and advise us. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, this government seems to love international policy making and international making bodies. It seems to worship them rather more than Parliament. I almost come back to what I said earlier on. If you have a foreign court in control, then you're not in control.
Absolutely.
And I think we need to move as a country thinking about the ECHR and certainly whatever the World Health Organization. Let's be honest, Julia, we made a complete enough mess of under our own steam of COVID. So the thought of some international body telling us what to do on any future pandemic fills me with dread. But have no fear. No parliament can be bound, or no future parliament can be bound by what is happening now. All this can and will be undone.
That is
because I think we have a crunch time coming and a new reset of the relationship between politicians and our public.
I absolutely expect that. Can I ask you about another big story in the news today? You'll know about just over an hour or so ago, we had the decision by the appeal court here in London on the case of Lucy Connolly. She is the childminder mother. She's a wife of a former Conservative councillor who posted a very nasty, unpleasant, horrible tweet on the day of the Southport attacks. She later deleted that tweet. A few days later, she was arrested. She was basically told, you're not going to get bail. You're going to be on remand for many, many months. She pleaded guilty to the crime of inciting racial hatred. She was sentenced to 31 months. Last week, the appeal court basically heard her appeal. Today, we found out that they have dismissed her appeal for her sentence to be shortened. She is due, we understand, to be released on early release in August, but nevertheless has not been allowed out on any weekend visits, as other prisoners in her circumstance have done. What do you make of the decision to sentence her to 31 months and to not reduce her sentence on appeal?
Well, I'm really surprised. Last week when the appeal was being heard, I honestly thought she'd be released that day, frankly. That's what I hoped for her. I mean, yes, the words were graphic and they were hurty and all of that.
They were, I mean, let's read them out. People don't know. She wrote, mass deportation now, set fire to all the effing hotels full of the bees for all I care. If that makes me racist, so be it. She was talking about asylum seekers.
No, absolutely right. And, you know, they were words that shouldn't be used. Of course they shouldn't. But I tell you what really does do damage on the street when somebody is faced with a knife or they're being mugged or they're being sexually abused and attacked. And if they are charged and go through a court system, they'll find themselves with probably a lesser sentence than what this woman has had.
And that's if they're arrested.
That means that we have not got the right type of justice system. And if we keep going down this route, I'm afraid people will lose confidence in it. So I'm very disappointed for her. I think she has atoned sufficiently because let's not forget she actually deleted that tweet within hours when she had a little bit of a calm down. We were all rather not more than upset. I was distraught about what happened in Southport, as many people were in this country. What she exhibited was the human condition in perhaps an extreme way. But I would have thought the court would have said, yeah, you've calmed down, you've reflected, we realise that, and you've got a young family.
Is she a political prisoner?
I hate to think that we would be going down a route of politics and prisoners and all of that sort of thing. But when we talk about two-tier policing and justice, I'm afraid I have my doubts and fears. And it seems to me that if you're anti-woke on the wrong way, or you've got a view that's wrong, I mean, I note even in this new employment rights bill, there is a potential protection for employees if they are wokey and right, on the right side of things, but no protection if you are, for instance, concerned about climate as something of a skeptic.
That's wrong think. Wrong think.
So
indeed.
That is wrong think, and your group think is, I'm afraid, inhabiting everything we do. So, wait for your P45, Julia, because you're on the wrong side.
I've been on the wrong side of every debate, apart from the fact I've always been proved to be on the right side of every debate, as indeed I think you have as well. Just finally, I want to ask you, in the last half an hour, we had a man who's Egyptian-born, Ahmed Ebid. He helped organise 3,800 migrants, basically on boat crossings from North Africa to Italy. Some of them then making their way onto Britain. This according to the National Crime Agency. He's a UK-based people smuggler, helping them on that part of the journey. He has been jailed for 25 years, believed to be the first person convicted of organising boat crosses across the Med from the UK. He was sentenced to 25 years, having pleaded guilty to conspiracy to assist unlawful immigration. He was part of a £12 million illegal boat crossing operation. So he wasn't involved in getting people across the channel, but involved in people getting across the Med, some of you ended up going across the channel lately. Now, we're told we're going to have the gangs smashed. I mean, is that the evidence that the gangs are being smashed?
Well, I must say 25-year sentence is very welcome. And I hope that that sort of goes across Facebook and all the rest of it so that others realise that the UK is not, you're going to get a stiff sentence. But, this is just a skin on the custard, isn't it, Julia? I mean, as you said earlier on, we're going to have many hundreds looking out the weather today. It's another long day. No doubt there will be many hundreds coming across the channel claiming to be poor refugees and all the rest of it. I'm afraid I don't believe half of them anymore. I don't blame them for coming here because they're coming for a new economic life. Yep. And I always question, these brave young men. They're always young men. They're that brave, leaving their countries they claim to be so dreadful, but they're leaving their mums, their sisters, their wives, and their young children.
Absolutely. You think they might want to stay and build their countries, wouldn't you?
Exactly right. Yeah, so I'm afraid, probably like the rest of us, we've become a little bit punch drunk by all this. I don't do Mr. Nice Guy on this anymore, and we need something rather more robust. And Yvette Cooper keeps saying we're going to smash the gangs.
Indeed. Craig McKinley. We'll have to leave it there. Lord McKinley, Conservative peer, thank you. Always so good to talk to you. Such a good friend of the show. Thank you very much, Dee. Tom Slater, your response on wherever you want to come in on there, really? Well,
it's just a reminder, isn't it? Just everything this government touches turns to the opposite of gold, really, doesn't it, to put it diplomatically? I mean, it's
a good thing this guy's being prosecuted. I think that's a good thing. All credit.
No, absolutely. But it's a reminder of how big the problem still is. You think, we've got one, right, dozens left to go. Another one will pop up tomorrow.
But of course they will, because, you might go 25 years behind bars, but the odds of that, the reason why that's in the news, doesn't happen very often.
No, absolutely.
Because the vast majority of those people who are involved don't go to prison, and what they do is they actually make money.
And we all know he's not going to smash the gangs. At the moment, he's just been smashing the records for illegal crossings. So it's everything that this government set itself to do is failing at. Meanwhile, all these unforced errors. Your biggest rival to be the next largest party in the next parliament is a party that literally used to be called the Brexit Party, and yet you're in the process of unravelling Brexit. This seems to me deranged.
Do you know, that's an interesting point, actually. Some people are pointing out, is there a possibility that Keir Starmer is actually doing sort of building up reform because he thinks he's got a chance of beating reform, but he's got a problem if the Tory party is strong?
To be honest, I think Keir Starmer shouldn't be, he's barely qualified to play kind of political noughts and crosses, let alone 3D chess. So I think you should stick to the fundamentals and see if he can possibly deliver on any of that, which he hasn't shown any strength.
Excellent.